Beats here from Pop Turner, speaking to Aaron Abrams about Code 8 Part 2, which is streaming now worldwide on Netflix. We're also talking about Children Ruin Everything, which you can catch on CTV and Crave in Canada and the CW in the States. Welcome to the show, man. It's good to see you.
Hello, BD Beats. What's up?
Not much, man. Thank you for doing this. I mean, we have a lot to talk about. We'll get into it. I mean, Code 8 Part 2, it's interesting because, anytime you make a new movie, like a sequel, it's like, how are we going to make it bigger? How are we going to make it better? I think, everyone like the Amells and Jeff, I mean, they said they had an answer for that. It was robot dogs, right? I think that was the answer. So I want to know kind of like the canine kind of robots and dogs and that the police kind of angle. What was it like kind of reading that in the script? And when did you first find out about that for the second one?
Well, I mean, Jeff and Chris, his partner, they always have the biggest ideas and the most ideas. And so like reading a script of theirs is always extremely exciting. And it's just lovely, like, working with them back in the short and in the first one and now in the second one. And when you read something like that, sometimes when you read sci-fi scripts, like it is hard to visualize, but with them, it's just sort of, it's going to be the best. I mean, they're really meticulous, and they're artists that, like, it's hard to dive in sometimes these sci-fi things and be like, okay, well, I hope I don't look like an idiot. And with them, it's like we just have all the comfort and trust in the world and what they're capable of doing.
And to add to that, it's all storytelling at the end of the day, but returning to play a character for a second movie versus coming on playing a character for like a new season of a show, is it different? Are there similarities? Like, I'm just curious about that specifically.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, he's quite different in the second movie, and so there's like a lot to arc through and sort of be like, well, what brought him here? And there's a lot of baggage to bring in, which is exciting as an actor to do that. But certainly, like, I don't know, like I've been reoccurring on a TV show almost 20 times, if not more, and those are always a bit weird because you're coming into a set family. There's a dynamic that you sort of have to hit the ground running. Sometimes you're facilitating other storylines. Sometimes you have your own thing. It's always usually it's a very interesting job to have and kind of fun, but it's weird, it's weird from a social aspect. It's weird from a work aspect because they have an environment set up. And so it's nice to have, I know Jeff and Chris from way back, and then to work with Robbie and Steven. So it's nice to have a sort of language and sort of be part of they just move so quickly and so efficiently. It's really great to be part of the team.
And Code 8 Part 2, like the first one, just kind of those amazing kind of edge on your seat, popcorn worthy movies. Like, you have a great time, you want to know what's going to happen, every scene and everything. What is your favorite thing specifically about making those type of movies, those Saturday night popcorn Netflix movies? I'm just curious about that.
Well, like, they're the movies I grew up on, right? Yep. So right when you're deciding to be an actor, I would love to say it was like, oh, me at 8 years old sitting and watching Dog Day Afternoon. But it really was like Lethal Weapon and shit like that. So exactly. That's what, and you're like, I want to be in that. I want to be punched in the face in these kinds of movies. So it was, 100%. So that there is a joy. It brings out a childlike quality, and it reminds you like, oh God, this is kind of what the initial dream was back when it was like pure and stupid. And so it's always amazing to be in those movies. And also you just like feel like they're gonna get seen. A lot of times the joy of doing independent movies is sort of like who maybe no one will see it.
Yeah.
Like, so there's a freedom in being there and it being like the work for itself, but like there is in this movie even more so because the audience was a part of making it.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
So like it's a big deal where they like I've never been a part of a movie or a TV show that the team, like, it's always a team sport making stuff, but the team of this included the audience, and so it just felt massive, and you felt their presence on set. A lot of times they were on set, they had set visits, but in the second one, you just felt that their presence, they were the whole reason it was happening.
And are you
conscious of doing the popcorn movie right there?
Yeah, but are you conscious of, like, that's interesting that you say that, because then I feel like in a lot of ways the answer to this question is no, but maybe for the Code 8 movies it is yes, because of that kind of crowdfunding aspect and the fans kind of really wanted the movies. Are you conscious of the audience member watching the Code 8 movies like while you're making them, or does that kind of happen afterwards?
It happens before and afterwards. It sort
Okay.
of gets excited there, and it gets you excited afterwards. But like, you can't think that way like while you're doing the work.
Yeah.
Then you start to feel you're going to get real presentational with it, or
Yeah,
you're
but
going
like
to get
sometimes it's like,
into.
oh, people are gonna freak out at this chase scene or something. Like maybe that happens
Sure,
like
yeah,
at
that
lunch or
stuff. I mean,
something. Yeah.
like that big sequence at the end of Code 8-2, which was just, it was like multiple nights of shooting, and there's evil cops, and there's good cops, and there's robot dogs, and there's this ML, and there's that ML, and there's a camera crew, and the news, and like
And then you
the
show up and you're like,
girl,
he's good,
and
he's
there's just
good, he's
so many
good.
parts, and you're watching him pick it apart and do it, and there's storyboards on set, and then that's when you can be like, oh my God, this is such a massive sequence. I'm so excited.
Absolutely. No, for sure. Shifting gears to TV a little bit, Children Ruin Everything. Love that show. You do an incredible job in that. The whole cast does an amazing job. That's one
Yeah.
of those shows that it's just I look forward to a new episode. You know, those 30-minute kind of family sitcoms, man, they're the best.
They really are, and I think it's hard to do what Kurt did. Kurt's the showrunner and creator. I mean, it comes from his life, and so I think you feel a lot of specificity in the storylines, which connect with people. And like, it's hard to do like a family sitcom or a sitcom about a family and feel new. It's such well-trodden territory, but he's really, they work so well as a team. Both myself and Megan, who plays my wife Astrid, and like that's just so it's very much about parenting, much more than the kids, and also they work as a team. They're never like at odds, which is like a cheap way to get conflict and get jokes and laughs on these shows, where like the husband's like a big ding dong, and the wife is, a shrew and really has to like carry the whole house on her back or whatever. And they're always like, he wants to escape and watch the game. Like, that never happens on the show. It's just the two of them in the weeds, in the mud, trying to figure some weekly problem out. And it's very funny.
And one of my favorite things about it is the chaos that ensues, especially at the dinner table and everything. There's always chaos on that show. And I'm just curious because there's a lot that kind of happens, Aaron, behind the scenes, and some people don't know. And I feel like when I started the show, I loved kind of asking questions about the craft and how you make these things that we kind of look forward to watching week after week. What's the pace of Children Ruin Everything? What's the pace like filming it specifically? Does it depend on the day? Is it there's an overall kind of like maybe like formula or consensus pace of it, like a middle pace, or is it really quick? Is it slow? Like, I'm curious about that.
Well, we have to shoot it pretty fast.
Okay.
I think the fact that we've got two amazing kid actors in there, and
Yep.
it's interesting. It's the first time I've really worked with kids, but they're so alive, and they could kind of do anything at any moment, that it makes you sharper and ready to go wherever they want to go. If they want to go someplace different, I thoroughly encourage that. And there is a impetus to make sure they're having fun all the time on set. So set is really fun. It can be, we're shooting quick, and so there's like a real directed work ethic to it, but at the same time, there's a joy to it, I think.
Yep.
And that joy, the way they shoot it and the way they cut it together, can make it look like chaos a lot of the times. But I
Yep.
think what really the magic sauce is the joy of getting to say these words, and the four of us really like working together.
Sometimes, and I think it's funny because it's a credit to the amazing writing on the show, but you see some of the dinner table conversations and you say like, oh, that must be improvised, right? Or that's like a quick bit, and it's not, right? Like, I find that so funny sometimes, you know what I mean? Like, that's just a credit to the good writing, right?
Absolutely, it's great. It's a good writing. It's our job also, like, to make it seem like it's coming from us as a part of the job. And so if it feels, the writing's just so alive, and again so specific, that I think it really feels like it's coming from the moment. And the kids are saying, like, they're just little weirdos, right? Like, they're not kids from your normal shows that say precocious things or smart punchline machines. Like, they're just like completely say weird things all the time. So it always sounds like they're making stuff up.
And to
And then we
add,
put me and Megan in the frame together a lot, which is like, there's a overlapping and stumbling all over each other a lot, and so we're a two-headed monster in a lot of ways, which does lead to some looseness.
absolutely. Are there a lot of conversations before going into those big kind of like you said, it's quick, right? You go and you do you film, boom, you have a couple episodes. But like, are there a lot of conversations with Megan, like game planning, or is it kind of just like I know there's the table reads and everything, but is there a lot of talking, or is it just kind of going in and doing it?
There's a lot of talk. I mean, me and Megan are constantly talking. I
Yep.
think that it's not necessarily game planning. I think that we, um, I think the writing is the writing. Like, and we keep it fresh by not going over it.
Yeah.
We're unlike working with Ennis, where we tend to like to go over it. I mean, that's part of it. We got to work differently with different people. It's the same with the kids. I think if you go over it with them, sometimes then they start to lose the that spark of something new happening, right? And
Yeah.
then they do something wild. And Megan and I tend to do that. But look, we're sort of chit-chatting all day for our own personal fun, but also I think that that's reflective in the work, and we know that.
Yeah.
That there's a connection the two of us have, and so when we can just sort of like, well, I know the directors sometimes have said like it didn't seem like you guys were ready because we'll be chit-chatting right until action, and then we'll keep that energy going into the scene.
That's perfect. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we have a connection that we're bringing into the show.
Mhm.
That hopefully is sort of imperceptible to everyone but us.
100%. And then your comment about being part of the job, you know what I mean? Like kind of doing the, writing justice and everything and going in and doing that. I like that you said that, right? When I said it basically felt sometimes like it was improv, but it was just kind of a line that was just thrown in. Kind of to add to that a little bit, do you feel like some people don't realize from the acting storyteller perspective, it really is kind of on to the next, right? Like you film something, you wrap, and then it's kind of like, all right, what's next? But do you ever bring things from past projects to current projects, like preparation wise, character wise, or are they all kind of separate in that regard? Because I find that interesting.
That's a great question. I mean, it really, you sort of, you accumulate a tool belt of tools. I've never really prepared the same way for every role sort of feels like it needs different tools and different ways to prepare and different ways to be on set. You're working with different people who need different things. And so it's really that's why I still take classes. Like you just have to sort of keep accumulating and accumulating because you'll be in some place and you're like, well, the regular shit I do isn't really working here. I don't feel right, or I need something to to reinvigorate myself. I might not have to do anything else, but like every script is different, every scene partner is different, and so I think a big part of the job is realizing what you need in any given situation. Like working with kids, for example, is very different than working with
100%. It's cool because people see you on Children and Everything, and they're gonna say, "Oh, I that's the guy from Blind Spot and all these other things." I mean, like you said, that like you haven't worked that much in comedy before, right? If you think about it.
Yeah, no, this is the first comedy I've been in. I've been the sort of funny guy in dramas.
Yes.
Again, a very different thing.
Which is like, I feel like the hard, and I think that's why you're such a good actor, man. I've told you this in person before, but that's the hardest thing. Like to be the funniest guy in like something that's not supposed to be funny, like in horror movies. Like I want to see you in more horror movies. I mean,
that'd be great.
You have been in some horror movies. We've talked about them.
I mean, the comic relief in Hannibal is sort of the funny guy in a horror movie, but it's a weird. You have to sort of figure out exactly how that fits.
But is that challenging for you? Like being the funny guy in something that's not supposed to be funny overall?
Yeah, I mean, Hannibal is very tricky. I mean, Blind Spot, I was a real heavy for the first 2 seasons, and then they started kind of writing me to be sort of a real loose cannon nutcase, which started to be fun and funny.
Yeah.
But like that was the writers, I think, realizing, places they could take me. Whereas Hannibal, it felt we were trying to find our place on that show. Scott Thompson and I were sort of it was a bit uncomfortable for the first couple episodes because we didn't know how to do it. We didn't know what to do. We didn't know how we fit in the show because the show is so bone dry and so scary and so it's not cutty or it's like just a slow, creepy nightmare. And right, so us two bozos come in and we're like, how are we not ruining all this? And it's sort of it started happening when they put us. There was a take where they put us in the same frame. We'd never went for jokes before. We'd never tried to be funny, and there was one take where I just saw that they put us in the same frame, which is this sort of can be a comedic sort of framing. And it's Scott Thompson's a comedy legend, so I was like, well, what happens if I just try something else here? And we sort of like, if you watch it, we're framed together. We're always sort of filling the frame. We're always moving and talking over each other. And then it becomes, I don't know, it started to fit for us a little bit. But it was to find your place when you're sort of the tonal outlier of these shows.
I'm glad you brought up Blind Spot and Hannibal, because you're actually low key like, because you have such an amazing body of work, you're like a hard interview sometimes in regards to like filling everything in, because you want to talk about like the new projects too, right? I was like, oh
That's
yeah, I
very
was in
nice.
this and this, but like yeah, but like right now, I mean, Code A Part 2 is streaming worldwide on Netflix. They could check that out, and they could check out seasons of Children and Everything on CW and Crave in Canada and the CW in the States. So tons of Aaron Abrams content for them to check out. Aaron, so great chatting with you, man. Thank you so much for your time.
And you're the greatest. It was great meeting you in real life, and then also in, I don't know, this is also real life, I guess, but
I
like not.
absolutely no,
Yeah,
it was absolutely. It was great to meet you at the premiere, and then doing this was awesome. Instagram is the best way
Anytime
people
you
keep
want to
updated
do
with
this, and we'll do this for the next season of Children and Everything. We'll do this whenever you want.
100%. You'll become a regular. It's awesome. I love how this
yeah.
behind the scenes for people. It was kind of one of those when we met. It was like, how have you not been on the show yet? Right? That's
Yeah, I know. I know. And it was like everybody around at that party was like, "Oh yeah, he's the best. Have you not been on his show?" I was like, "Well, yeah, I feel like."
Yeah, I know. It was so crazy. Yeah, we
No,
kept
I look
bumping
forward to doing that to somebody else.
Yeah, we kept bumping into the same people. We're like, you guys should do an interview. Have you not done an interview? So that's great. Your Instagram is the best where people keep update with everything, right? Just your name?
Correct. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this has been Pop Turn at youtube.com/PopTurn for previous episodes. Till next time, this is Aaron Abrams and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.